Ocarina of Time. A classic, revolutionary title known to many as one of the greatest games of all time. I am among one of the believers, but today's video isn't so much about the gameplay or story, but the artwork that brought the game to life. It's also an excuse for me to gush about the incredible work that went into this game and helped inspire me as an artist. To which I'll be doing an illustration to show my appreciation for this game and artists who put so much time into it. But that'll be the second half of the video though. The important artists take the spotlight, of course. So without further ado, let's side hop into it. Ocarina took a drastic turn in style from all the previous entries in the franchise for multiple reasons. Most importantly, the move from the 16-bit era to the 64. From the original Zelda to Link's Awakening, the art style was consistent and had a very whimsical feel to it, which makes sense given the original concept for the game. However, Ocarina was to take a much deeper, in some ways darker, look at the series. A lot of the progression stayed the same as Link to the Past, with the Master Sword and the Sages, but Ocarina was a more cinematic experience, and they needed an art style that complemented that. Originally, they were going to use the CG artwork using a program called Power Animator, the same program they used to make the art from Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64, but it was still new and they were struggling to get used to it. And so enter Yusuke Nakano, the illustrator who did all the artwork for the Ocarina of Time. Yusuke Nakano had worked for Nintendo on a couple of projects that you may have heard of, like Super Metroid and Super Mario 64, but his work on Ocarina of Time solidified him as an illustrator for the series indefinitely. Originally, he was working on concept sketches for the team while they were figuring out how they wanted to move forward with the artwork when he straight up asked if he could draw everything himself. This man is the legend. He stated that it was kind of a letdown how quickly they came back with, sure, why not, because of the sheer workload involved. And I mean, yeah, because it's pretty crazy to be the sole artist for an entire game of that scale. Never volunteer for anything, that's the lesson. But nonetheless, though, he did it with gusto and produced some of the most stunning pieces of artwork for the series, giving new life to old characters and bringing new ones into the spotlight. Nakano wasn't the only artist working on the game, though. Another person I feel like it's necessary to mention is Satoru Takizawa. While Takizawa is known more as an art director in later games in the series and is responsible for the art styles for Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, his contribution to this game was a massive one. Takizawa was the enemy designer for the game and was tasked with creating not only Twin Rova, but Ganondorf. The dude, with Nakano's help in illustrating the character, is the entire reason Ganondorf is as popular as he is today. There would be no Doria without him. His thought behind Ganondorf was to create a villain worth defeating. He had to have this aura of power while maintaining a clever and cunning demeanor. So to him, the character's eyes were a huge selling point, a point he would not back down on when Nakano came back with illustrations that made him look more like a brute than a cunning Dark Lord. All things considered though, these guys got it done. So now we've got to talk about the art style. Well, it's not been stated what the inspiration was for the art style. It definitely took a more realistic turn, which was very common of anime at the time. Very stylized faces on more anatomically correct proportions. Well, for the most part, Zelda still needs these bizarre-looking characters. But the finished illustrations were all done digitally for this game as compared to the traditional artwork from previous games, which gave Nakano more freedom with his painting style. And I think the colors are a big part of what makes the illustrations so captivating. Very smooth shading with high levels of contrast and environmental lighting make these stand out a lot more than other artwork in the series. Ocarina of Time's art style has remained one of my favorites for all of these reasons and more. It captures the tone of the game while breathing new life into the series. To me, Ocarina of Time was a masterpiece from the first sketch to the final illustration. It paved the way for this series going onward and started the careers of many talented people. I love this game with all the pieces of my heart. and it was the first time I really felt like video games took me out of my world and placed me into a fantastical wonderland. Regardless of whether you played as a child or picked it up as an adult, Ocarina has stood the test of time. Alright everybody, so this is going to be just this is the second part of the video. Like I mentioned, I did an illustration for just to commemorate this game. I'm going to put a timestamp up here, hopefully in editing I did it right now, that is just going to show you the finished artwork if you don't want to watch all the time lapse. It is like 6 minutes long, so that's completely up to you guys, but yeah, if you want to see the process, we're going to be going to that right now. So here I started with the inks because I don't have a camera or anything set up to be able to record me drawing the sketch, because I did the sketch in my sketchbook, not in Clip Studio like I'm doing the rest of it. But I'm using the G pen, which is like the the default pen that they're using in Clip Studio. But for the piece, I wanted this to be, I just wanted to do Kokiri Forest because it was one of my favorite areas in the game. I loved the atmosphere around it. I loved all the Kokiri, all the Kokiri, all the kids. Like Saria she's probably one of my favorite characters in the series. And Mito is also pretty great too. I just wanted to showcase like the most important characters in the Kokiri Forest, but I also wanted to have the Great Deku Tree in there a little bit, and I also had the Kokiri's Emerald. Just, to me, like this, it kind of encapsulated like all of what I enjoyed about like Zelda as a kid. But also here, we're going into like, I'm starting to do like the base color. So what this is all this is doing is creating a layer that I can mask over. So what I'm doing here is I'm coloring it all in green, but so I'll create another layer and then mask it, make a clip layer over top of it, so I'm not going to be able to go over the lines any. Just makes it really easy, and I'm also using the lasso tool to just create areas where I can just fill in color, just make it easier for myself to just do the flats. This is the first time I've ever really done that. I know a lot of artists actually really do that, but this is the first time I've ever really done it. I'm not super used to doing digital artwork, but I'm really enjoying it. But so this is, and now I'm just doing we're filling in the flat colors now. But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that I got like everything. I wanted to make it feel it's very Zelda, so. One of the things is going to be a big thing in this particular piece is going to be the lighting, just because of the way that like the light comes down in the forest itself, and you had all like the particles and all that stuff. I'll end up taking out a lot of the particles just because I had a hard time kind of figuring out how to do that. I'll probably do something with it later. But for the final piece, you'll see it won't have all those. You just have the filtered light coming through. But one of the things that I really like to do is whenever I do the shading and all that stuff, I like to add a lot of like reds in for characters, just because it makes it look a little more vibrant. I rarely ever use any kind of like gray or anything when I'm trying to do all the shading. I know some people like it, but it really depends on like if I was doing like a Twilight Princess illustration, definitely I'd be using more like grays and like blue colors to do a lot of the shading, because that was a big thing in that game that I noticed. But for Ocarina of Time, it was more or less just using just kind of blending colors from light to dark, and like certain, like I know the one illustration that I really loved was the Link and Sheik one, just because there was a lot of that, a lot of the blues that they used to like as a from the environment. Like I think it was supposed to be was it the ice cavern? I think that would make sense. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool illustration. It's one of my favorites that was done. But I mean, and the thing is too is just like I don't think I stressed it enough how like incredible the artists were. Like Nakano, just as a whole, is a fantastic artist. I mean, he's done the artwork he did all the artwork for Ocarina of Time. I mean, like, so, and with Takizawa too, like, he didn't really do any of the artwork. It was just like he did like a lot of models for the enemy designs, and then Nakano came through and he ended up doing all the illustration, like all of it, which just baffles me. I'm still blown away by that. But like, yeah, those guys, like, they definitely need to be referenced more often. And I think like a lot of artists like need to be referenced more often as far as like in gaming goes. That's why I wanted to do this video. You know, it was to help appreciate the artists that bring it all together. But I also do want to ask you, like, do you guys want to see the videos like this where I have the info in the beginning and then the artwork later, or you just kind of prefer the artwork? That'd be big for me. So you guys have to let me know. But here we got we're gonna have the final illustration here, and so I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I had a really good time doing it. It's kind of I haven't really seen this kind of content on YouTube. I'm sure that there is, but I really just wanted to be able to show my love for video games in the way that I know best, which is to do artwork and appreciate the artwork. So yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let me know in the comments if this is something you want to see more of. I would love to be able to do like Majora's Mask. I'll go into some Pokemon stuff, to talk about Kensuke Mori because the guy's amazing. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. So see you later.